A case that not only rocked all of Sweden, but also left a permanent scar in the hearts of millions. Have you ever heard a story so disturbing, so emotionally devastating, that it silenced an entire nation? This one did exactly that. What began as a simple evening turned into one of the most gruesome crimes the country had ever seen. The story of Emma Jangestig and her children isn't just a tale of tragedy. It's a horrifying reminder of how obsession, rage, and unresolved pain can spiral into something inhuman. In the world of psychology, there's a term known as Adele syndrome. It refers to an obsessive, uncontrollable fixation that one person develops toward another. The condition is named after Adele Hugo, the youngest daughter of the legendary French writer Victor Hugo. Adele was a gifted pianist and an exceptionally beautiful woman. However, her unreturned love drove her to madness. For years, she followed a man who did not reciprocate her feelings, even posing as his wife, sabotaging his career, and ultimately unraveling her own life. She spent 43 out of her 84 years confined in a psychiatric hospital. This syndrome isn't as rare as we might think. It often starts subtly, a fixation, intense admiration, but if left untreated, it can grow into something dangerous. Some people require only counseling to regain control, but others fall into a mental abyss where love turns into possession and obsession leads to violence. In the case of Emma Jangestig in 2008, what unfolded wasn't just the result of a disturbed mind. It became one of the most brutal crimes in Swedish history. Emma was born on February 16, 1985, in Stockholm. Raised in a modest and loving family, she was the younger of two sisters. Her elder sibling, Katarina, was one of her closest confidants. At 19, Emma married Niklas, a boy she had dated since high school. He was only slightly older than her, and by the time they got married, Emma was already expecting their first child. At the age of 20, Emma gave birth to a son, Max. A year and a half later, she welcomed a daughter, Saga. Despite becoming parents to two beautiful children, Emma and Niklas were still too young to handle the emotional weight of family life. Their relationship was strained by constant arguments, financial stress, and immaturity. After Saga's birth, they decided to separate. However, custody over the children became a major battleground. Niklas wasn't just determined to provide financial support. He wanted to be an active father. He fought hard in court, trying to remain a significant part of his children's lives. While Emma didn't oppose his involvement at first, things took a turn when she fell in love again. Emma met a man named Torbjörn Torne Hellberg online. He lived in a small town called Arboga, roughly 150 kilometers from Stockholm. Their bond was instant. Despite Emma already having two children, Torne saw them as his own. He longed for a family and accepted the trio wholeheartedly. Emma relocated to Arboga with Max and Saga, moving into a small home that Torne had inherited. Eventually, the couple moved to a bigger house where each child had their own room. Torne had a stable job, and Emma, although focused on childcare, had dreams of returning to her field as a designer. They planned to marry in the summer of 2008. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But on March 17, 2008, their dream life shattered beyond repair. That Monday seemed ordinary. Torne left early for work, while Emma stayed home with her children. In the evening, she was chatting online with her sister Katarina while preparing dinner and caring for Max and Saga. Around 6:30 p.m., she received a call from Torne, who informed her he'd be late and suggested she start dinner without him. She returned to her chat, discussing what present to buy for their parents' upcoming wedding anniversary. At 7:07 p.m., their conversation was suddenly cut off mid-sentence. Katarina was puzzled. Emma had been typing a reply but never hit send. Concerned, she called her sister, but there was no answer. She tried Torne next, who assured her everything was probably fine and that Emma might have just gotten busy with the kids. But when Torne arrived at the house moments later, he felt something was wrong. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house was in disarray. At first, He thought the children had made a mess. But then he saw something. Dark stains on the floor. His heart dropped. It was blood. Calling out for Emma and the kids, he heard no response. Then he saw something on the floor. At first, he thought it was a doll. Small, twisted, unnatural in its position. But as he moved closer, horror gripped him. It was Saga, lying in a pool of blood. Her face was so mutilated it was almost unrecognizable. A few steps away lay Max, also lifeless, his skull fractured. Emma, too, was found nearby, her face shattered, body covered in blood, contorted. All three appeared dead. Tournay, paralyzed with shock, called Emma. Paramedics arrived quickly, and what they witnessed shocked even the most seasoned professionals. All three victims had suffered catastrophic head injuries. Emma was placed in a medically induced coma. Max and Saga were critical. Doctors gave no promises. Their skulls were crushed so badly that survival, even if possible, would mean life with unimaginable disabilities. While medical teams fought for their lives, forensic investigators began piecing together the scene. The house was in chaos. Blood smeared across the walls and floors, items scattered, signs of a brutal struggle. But because medics had rushed to help, they'd inadvertently trampled much of the scene. Footprints overlapped, evidence was disturbed. Still, investigators concluded that the attack took place in less than 13 minutes, based on the timeline between Emma's last message and Tournay's emergency call. The brutality of the attack pointed to a personal motive. The weapon used was believed to be a heavy, blunt object, likely a hammer. But it was missing. The killer had taken it with them. Naturally, suspicion first fell on Tournay. He wasn't married to Emma and wasn't the biological father of the kids. Investigators considered whether a domestic argument had turned deadly, but Tournay had a solid alibi, confirmed by his employer and surveillance footage from his walk home. Still, his statement was taken in detail, in case he had seen or heard anything suspicious before entering the house. Tournay remembered only the unlocked door, possibly indicating Emma had let the attacker in. After questioning, he was released. Heartbroken, he informed Emma's family. Her parents, already en route from Stockholm, heard the worst possible news during their drive. Max and Saga had succumbed to their injuries. They had never regained consciousness. With Tournay cleared, attention turned to Nicholas, Emma's ex-husband. The man had a clear motive: custody battles, past threats, and emotional resentment. Emma had even reported his threats to the police. Everything seemed to align. Nicholas was quickly located and brought in, but when informed about the deaths of his children, he collapsed into sobs, screaming that it had to be a mistake. When questioned, he explained he was away in another city on business. His story checked out. Surveillance and receipts placed him 120 miles away at the time of the murders. He had no involvement. As investigators ruled out the obvious suspects, they dug deeper. Emma's estranged sister, Katarina, became an unexpected focus. She had always had a complicated relationship with Emma, resentment building over the years due to old family feuds. It was revealed that Katarina had been unusually protective of Emma, often hovering too close to her life and relationship with Tournay. Could it have been jealousy or a feeling of abandonment? However, after thorough investigation and questioning, it became clear that Katarina had an airtight alibi. Despite her emotional turbulence, she was in Stockholm at the time of the murders, with multiple witnesses confirming her whereabouts. As the case deepened, panic grew. Emma was the only surviving witness. If the killer knew she was alive, they might come back to finish the job. Authorities placed 24-hour protection outside her hospital room. Meanwhile, forensic teams desperately searched for usable evidence. But the killer had been meticulous. No fingerprints, no murder weapon. Even shoe prints were difficult to trace due to the chaos caused by paramedics. Every step had to be measured and cross-referenced. Police canvassed the neighborhood. One witness recalled seeing a strange man dressed in black, lingering near Emma's home around 5 p.m., 2 hours before the attack. She thought it odd at the time, but hadn't considered it significant. Until now. But just when police thought they had a lead, things took an even stranger turn. The same neighbor later mentioned something she hadn't shared before, a chilling detail that would change the course of the investigation. She remembered seeing the person again, walking away from the area moments after the attack. But she couldn't see the person's face. It was hidden under a hood. However, the neighbor pointed out something unusual. The figure looked short and fragile, almost like a girl. Just minutes later, the same hooded figure in black clothes was caught on the street surveillance camera near a store not far from the crime scene. To the investigators, the person appeared to be a short, frail girl. But the real question was, who was she? And why would she want to harm Emma and her children? The recording was shown to Torney to get his opinion. The moment he saw the footage, his expression changed. He turned pale. Then, in a low voice, he said, "It might be his ex-girlfriend, 31-year-old Christina Schurer." Christina, born in Hanover, Germany in 1977, had a troubled past. Her father abandoned the family when she was young, which deeply affected her emotionally. Despite being intelligent and ambitious, Christina had a difficult personality. As a teenager, she moved to the US through an exchange program and later earned a degree in history and archaeology. In 2006, she went to Crete, Greece, working as a tour guide. That's where she met Torney, a 26-year-old vacationing at the hotel. Christina was 29 at the time. They instantly connected and started a brief summer romance. After he left, they stayed in touch online, and Christina later traveled to Sweden, asking to stay with him. But her behavior soon became clingy and aggressive. Torney refused to continue the relationship, yet Christina wouldn't take no for an answer. She kept calling, texting, and pushing for another meeting. When she visited again in 2007, she even tried to seduce him. After being rejected, she warned him. He would regret it. 3 months later, Christina returned, apologized, and again tried to rekindle the relationship. Torney declined. That evening, she called him, saying she had swallowed pills and no longer wanted to live. Torney called for help, and Christina was hospitalized. Afterward, her mother admitted her to a psychiatric facility, where she stayed for over a month. But even after treatment, her obsession with Torney didn't end. In October 2007, Christina moved to Stockholm's suburbs, claiming she gave birth to Torney's child, a son she had placed in foster care. Torney was shocked but suspicious. The timeline didn't match. Later, Christina said the child had a hereditary disease and they needed to go to Germany. When Torney, on Emma's advice, asked the adoptive father questions about the child's birth and hospital records, the man hung up. It became clear the child never existed. It was all part of Christina's web of lies. Police soon discovered Christina had recently left Sweden for Germany. A warrant was issued, and she was arrested. Though she denied involvement, investigators found damning evidence in her laptop. Her device was filled with pictures of Torney, some with Emma and the kids. One folder, ominously labeled, contained their photos with threatening, disturbing captions. One image had the words, "They don't deserve you," scrawled in red. Another read, "Soon you'll see." Search history revealed queries like, how to commit murder without leaving traces, how to divert suspicion from yourself, how much blood loss causes unconsciousness. Detectives even found a plan of Emma and Torney's house, with notes about their daily routine. Christina had noted when Emma left to pick up groceries, when the kids took naps, and even when the family usually had dinner. Christina's roommate mentioned a hammer had gone missing in March, the same kind believed to be the murder weapon. The roommate also recalled Christina returning home one evening, trembling and whispering to herself. When asked what was wrong, Christina simply said, "It's done," and locked herself in her room for hours. Surveillance also showed Christina visiting the suburb of Aruga multiple times, scoping the area. She had no explanation for these visits. Meanwhile, Emma was slowly being brought out of a medically induced coma. She couldn't speak initially, but responded to her surroundings. When asked what had happened, she remembered nothing. She thought she'd been in a car accident. Every time she was told the truth, that her children were gone, her mind blocked it out. Doctors had to break the news several times over weeks. Her trauma was so severe that her memory shut down completely. Eventually, Emma visited the crime scene with medical support. That's when it all came flooding back. She recalled receiving a message from her sister, setting the table, the kids playing. Then a knock at the door. A short, hooded woman stood there. Emma felt pain, blacked out, and realized the woman had entered the house. Despite her injuries, she tried to stop the intruder, but collapsed in the hallway. Christina's trial began on July 29, 2008. She behaved bizarrely, smiling, waving at the crowd, and laughing at crime scene photos. Despite this, a psychiatric evaluation confirmed she was sane. Emma fainted upon seeing her in court. When she regained consciousness, she told authorities that this was the face she saw before losing consciousness that night. The defense tried to claim there was no physical proof, but the circumstantial evidence, the photos, the notes, the internet searches, the roommate's testimony, all pointed to her. The jury found Christina guilty on all counts. Double murder with extreme cruelty, attempted murder. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with no chance of release. She was also ordered to pay 20,000 euros to Emma. No evidence was ever found that she had been pregnant or had a son. As for Torny and Emma, they went through a long period of healing. Despite the heartbreak, they stayed together. In 2010, they married and started a new life, raising 2 children together. Their family will always carry the memory of the little ones they lost. But they continue to live with strength and love. Thanks for watching. If this story shocked you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There are many more unbelievable stories coming your way. This is TrueCrime Chronicles, where the truth is more chilling than fiction.